It is 1977. A 10-year-old boy sits in the dark, and the screen fills with stars. Words crawl upward into infinity. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. And something happens in that boy's chest. Not excitement exactly. Something older than excitement, recognition. As if some part of him, some very quiet, very certain part, already knew that the universe was bigger than he'd been told, that there were forces at work beyond what physics textbooks would admit, that somewhere in the dark between the stars, something extraordinary was happening. He walked out of that cinema changed, and he never entirely walked back. This is Parallel. And tonight, as we close in on May the 4th, what if Star Wars is real?
I remember the moment exactly. The lights went down, and then that opening note, that single brass note that seems to come from somewhere deeper than a cinema speaker has any right to reach. I was 10 years old. I had no framework for what I was about to see. No one did. And when it ended, when I walked back out into ordinary daylight, the world looked different. Not worse, not smaller, just provisional. Like everything I'd been told about reality was a first draft. I went home and looked up at the sky that night. Not the way I usually did. Really looked. And I thought, what if it's all out there? What if the screen was showing us something true? 40-something years later, I still look up, and I still ask the same question.
Here is what we actually know. The galaxy contains somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion stars. Most of them have planets. We have already confirmed the existence of planets orbiting binary stars, two suns in the sky, just as the story described. We assumed for decades that was pure imagination. It wasn't. We have found planets in the habitable zones of their stars. We have found water on moons within our own solar system. We have detected organic molecules, the building blocks of life, drifting through interstellar space. The question of whether life exists elsewhere in the galaxy is no longer seriously considered to be whether. It is now when we find it, and what it looks like when we do. The universe the story imagined, vast, populated, ancient, is not fantasy. It is the most likely description of what actually exists beyond the edge of what we can currently see. The 10-year-old boy was not wrong to feel recognition. He was just early. Now for the harder question. Not the planets, not the civilizations. The force, an energy field that binds all living things. That can be felt, trained, and then channeled. That exists in the space between matter and responds to consciousness. Physics says no. Or rather, physics says not yet. Because here is what physics also tells us. 95% of the universe is made of things we cannot see, cannot detect, and cannot explain. Dark matter, dark energy. We know they exist because of how everything else behaves around them. We have no idea what they actually are. And quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where two particles remain connected across any distance, each instantly aware of what happens to the other, has been proven in laboratories. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He meant it as a criticism. It turned out to be a description. Consciousness itself remains one of the deepest unsolved problems in science. We do not know what it is. We do not know where it comes from. We do not know whether it is purely biological or whether it reaches into something larger. The force, as described, is not magic. It is a hypothesis about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the fabric of reality. And we cannot rule it out. Not yet. Let's follow the question to its logical conclusion. If the galaxy is populated, genuinely, vastly populated, then Earth is not the center of anything. We are, at best, a young civilization on a modest planet in an unremarkable corner of one of 200 billion galaxies. That is either the most humbling thought in human history or the most exciting. Every religion would be forced to reckon with it. Every philosophy, every story we tell about what we are and why we matter. And power, the thing humans have always organized themselves around, would look very different. Because if history tells us anything, it's that when two civilizations of unequal power meet, the more powerful one does not always ask permission. The story understood this. That's why it gave us an empire and a rebellion. And the question it never lets you avoid: which side are you on? Our own history suggests the answer is rarely as clear as we'd like it to be. Most people aren't rebels or stormtroopers. Most people are just trying to get through the day in a galaxy that didn't ask their opinion. The story knew that too. It just gave us heroes to remind us that ordinary people can choose otherwise. Imagine the morning it becomes undeniable. Not a film, not a story. Contact, signal, arrival. The first consequence would not be wonder. It would be panic. Every government on Earth would immediately ask the same question it always asks. Is this a threat? Science would be transformed overnight. Physics rewritten. Biology expanded. Every assumption about what life is and where it lives would have to start again from scratch. Religion would fracture, and then perhaps deepen. Because the instinct toward meaning doesn't disappear when the universe gets larger. It intensifies. And the question of the force, of whether consciousness is something the universe does to itself, would move from philosophy lecture to urgent scientific program. Because if it's real, and if it can be trained, the implications for what human beings are capable of would be the most significant discovery in our history. More significant than fire, more significant than language. We would never be the same species again. The 10-year-old boy didn't know any of this. He just knew that when the lights went down and the stars appeared on the screen, something in him said yes. Not yes, this is a good story. Yes, this. Scientists now believe the galaxy almost certainly contains other life. Philosophers cannot explain consciousness. Physicists have proven that particles can be connected across any distance, and 95% of the universe remains completely unknown to us. The story imagined a universe that was alive, ancient, populated, held together by something we don't have a name for yet. That isn't so far from what the evidence suggests. The boy grew up. He learned about physics and biology and the long, slow work of science. He stopped saying the force out loud, but he never stopped feeling it. That pull toward something larger. That quiet certainty that the universe is stranger and more alive than anyone has yet been able to prove. Maybe that's what the story was always really about. Not spaceships, not lightsabers, not empires and rebellions, but the part of us that looks up at the sky and refuses to believe that we are alone. May the Force be with you. It always has been. This was Parallel. If the question stayed with you, you're one of us. Like and subscribe and we'll see you in the next What If.